This is a call we are all too familiar with. The ever-present Kabadiwallas who've been picking up waste newspapers, scrap metals, plastic bottles and electronic waste from our homes for decades. But now the methods of waste collection are changing. Startups are disrupting the conventional waste management business and Kabadiwallas are going digital. So scrap can now be traded through an app and at a good profit. This is where the story of Recykal begins. A startup that provides tech solutions for waste management, Recykal took shape in 2016 and 6 years later bagged $22 million in funding from Morgan Stanley. Last financial year, it earned nearly 12 times more revenue just by dealing in kabad. Recykal aims to divert at least 5% of waste from landfills to recycling, an important way to limit greenhouse gas emissions, which is pushing up the Earth's temperature. This, when the world needs to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius and halve greenhouse gas emissions by 2030. Recycal's founder Abhay Deshpande tells my colleagues Shishir Prasad and Richa Sharma from ET Prime how he and his team spent days at dump sites learning the ropes of waste management. How in 2018 they launched the country's first marketplace in waste management, and how they strive to bring transparency and accountability to this business. It's Friday, the 1st of December. From the Economic Times, I'm Kalpana Pathak, and you are tuned in to the Morning Brief.
कांताबाई बोली मुंबई में सबसे ज्यादा पैसा कचरे में है. This was the famous line delivered by Ganesh Gaitonde, a mafia don played by Nawazuddin Siddiqui in Sacred Games. In real life, Gaitonde understood what scraps could get him. And in real life, a Hyderabad-based B2B tech startup has made it its business model. Today, my colleague Richa Sharma and I, Shishir Prasad of ET Prime, sit down with the brain behind the company, Abhay Deshpande, a seasoned entrepreneur who founded Recykal in 2016. Abhay, welcome to the Morning Brief. But before we get to the business, let's get to the basics. Please take us through the waste management system that exists, especially for the ever-growing e-commerce demand and the never-ending collection of disposable packing.
Today's waste management systems have a lot of flaws, and we all know that. There are two ways. The waste which goes to a dustbin is one category, and the waste which is lying in our houses is another category, right? And both, I will say, are equal. I'll use a simple example. If you look at e-waste, most of the e-waste is lying at people's houses, right? And if I buy a mobile, and I might have a Nokia 110, which I bought in 2000 or 98, still lying at my house somewhere in the drawer. So because the e-waste is considered as a value, perceived value is much, much higher. So as a consumer, even the phone is not working, I still connect it with the 50,000 rupees price, which I have paid for it when I was buying it. And that makes sure that I don't bring it out. And that's the problem with e-waste, that 70% of the e-waste still is lying at the people's houses. It is not coming out, and it is not coming into circularity, and people are just sitting on it. And with expecting that काम आएगा, the काम आएगा word is the challenge. There is no single solution available for everything. But at the end of the day, what we have seen in India, which has worked, is always a fear and greed. The mass level behavioral change only will come if there are any of these two elements involved in.
From an economic perspective, there is a market mechanism which allows us to believe that, hey, this can be disposed of in a better way, which also allows it to sort of go back into circularity, if you will. Why is the market mechanism not developing in general for something as much as, let's say, e-waste?
So I think the biggest challenge with e-waste is the value when we buy it, the consumption when it happens, right? So we buy mobile, we buy TV, we buy whatever products we buy. The value of that product is much, much higher, number one. And in the recycling world, when it goes back to the recycling, the value available for it is like very, very less as compared to, say, I buy a mobile of, say, 90,000 rupees and it is not working now. It's a e-waste. It's not reusable also. I don't even get 1,000 rupees for it, right? So 90,000 is a big gap. And Indian consumer, as an Indian consumer, I have used that mobile. I feel that I should get more value. Somewhere that value is not available anywhere else. Number two, there are informal segments who have been acting in this space, although that out of the 70% is still lying at people's houses, whatever 10% comes out of that 80% still goes to that informal sector, because the pricing made available by them. The same mobile might be bought at 1200 rupees at a recycle. Informal recycling, the formal recycler cannot provide you more than 500. The difference is because the whole cost of the ecosystem. The informal recycling happens somewhere in Dharavi or Charminar, where there's no infrastructure required, there's no minimum wages, there's no environmental impact thought of. So they are able to offer the more value, and people prefer that because they get more value there directly. So because of this, one, the value and the consumption difference is too high here. And Indians are cost conscious. Here is the world where we expect money out of our waste. We sell newspapers, we sell plastic, we sell e-waste. So the whole perception about the waste, there's nothing called waste in this country. So that is a fundamental point. So that's the reason the e-waste ecosystem has not got built. Second point on the e-waste side, that the whole recycling infrastructure is in an early stage of getting built. Earlier, what used to happen that India just used to collect, dismantle, and export it to other countries for recycling. So the real value creation was happening somewhere in Korea or Japan or some other places where the motherboards are exported. I think now India is taking few steps. In last couple of years, we saw a couple of large recyclers coming forward and trying to build that latest technology to really extract the maximum value out of it. And that might change the perception somewhere. So I think that is one of the reasons, because of the value and because of the dominance of informal sector. And third reason is not having a proper recycling infrastructure in the country is one of the reason of not able to bring the circularity into the e-waste.
So Abhay, you've talked about the entire business on the recycling thing. So enters the Recykal. So could you take us through the Recykal journey from where you started and how you kind of got into this business, which is called the dirty business of waste management?
So I was looking for the next big opportunity. This time, definitely the idea was that let's do something more impactful, more larger. And somewhere that instinct of an entrepreneur, it was the instinct of an entrepreneur that there is something in waste management. Although I didn't know A, B, C of waste management, neither have any data. Neither anybody had any data about waste management, except a couple of reports published by CII and FICCI based on some surveys done at one colony and then saying extrapolated it to a million or billions of consumers. I think nobody had data. Everything was just extrapolation. So we saw those reports and we realized that, first of all, the instinct was that it looks a very large opportunity. All of us knew that it's a complete informal and cash-driven economy, no doubt about it. At the same time, how big it is, nobody knew. So there was no report to talk about. And as usual, as you know, you saw my journey. I was the one who started e-commerce in this country, started SaaS in this country. So wanted to always took a path which was not taken by anybody else. So that was always a DNA there. So we thought, let's build a marketplace in waste management. Let's build a technology in a platform which can help formalizing this industry a bit. We know that it's so large. Now, after spending 7 years, we know that it's so large that even if we could formalize 10% of it in our lifetime, it will be a great achievement. So we started from a flat, clearly build a very strong team of 30, 35 people, fresh team, which comes from diverse background. First thing I had the solid co-founders. Each comes with a solid experience of each of their domains. We were going to the informal guys and they say, as soon as they see a private limited company, they feel that, their perception was that any private limited company come in, they will kill their business. The first thing we realized that to build a confidence amongst the ecosystem, we need to feel related to them. We need to tell them that we are not here to kill your business and we will help you in making your business more professional and more formal. It took a lot of time. In fact, 3 years it took us for really creating that base. We worked with 600 rack pickers, went to their houses, understood their lifestyle, morning they get up, what they do, where they collect, what price they sell, who is the buyer, what is the value chain. We were not aware about this knowledge when we started. But when we went inside, then we realized battery is also a different world, metal is also a different world. So each vertical is a different world altogether. Each one can be a 20 billion or $100 billion opportunity, but the ecosystems are different, but all these are connected. So this whole waste management ecosystem is very well connected. And then we realized that it's such a large, and somewhere I read, and I also concur with that almost 1.5% of India's population gets food every day because somebody in their family is working in waste management. And that's pretty large. That's almost like IT also doesn't have that. And these, out of that 1.5%, 90% are exploited. They're at the bottom of the pyramid. Those are the guys who are doing all the hard work, but only getting 30% of the value. So all those lot of learnings came in those first 2 years. We realized how the people do informal business, the cash economy, and what can we do there. And what happened during that period in 2017-18, government came up with a regulation called EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility. And I think that was a game changer for the industry. Let me put that the way demonetization was a game changer for fintech industry. Similar thing happened with EPR into the waste management industry, where the brands, the producers were made a part of waste management ecosystem. And that really drove the formalization in last couple of years. And we being there at the right time and right place has really helped us.
Could you explain about your platform and how it operates?
So we have three different business verticals. If you look at our business vertical, the first one is a marketplace, and that is a centerpiece of our business. The marketplace is a business where we have one side the Kabadiwallas, who are the sellers on the marketplace, who collect the material through their downward supply chain, through from rat pickers, from various sources. They process it and then sell it to marketplace. So as I was explaining, and I will take one example of plastic. By the time the plastic bottle you throw in dustbin, by the time it reaches to the recycler, it goes through 7 different hands. From a guy who collects it till it reaches to the recycler. So what we said, we'll go to a second guy in the value chain from top. We'll not go to the bottom of the pyramid to start. The guy who is doing the processing, we call them as a baler. He's a third guy in the ecosystem. So we onboarded him. He's a Kabadiwalla / baler / whatever. And the biggest thing was there was this whole ecosystem is so informal. All the 7 guys only know one guy above and one guy below. They don't really know what happens in the value chain after them and before them. So we educated that one segment, tell them that this is a platform for you and this you can sell your material on this platform, and we'll get multiple buyers for it. And at the end of the day, better results, but for that you have to formalize. You have to sell through GST. You have to sell through this. So there are 3 conditions additional required. Initially, there was a resistance. Nobody was ready. Everyone said, why I should pay GST? Why should I buy? All that stuff was happening. But then somehow some people got aligned. It takes time. The other side, we have buyers, which are recyclers, who actually buy this material, recycle it, create some product out of it, and then that is reused again into a circular economy. 90% of the recyclers are informal, 10% were formal when we started. But as of now, because of EPR and because of formalization of the industry, a lot of people are now. Otherwise, most of the recycling in India used to happen in Dharavi or Charminar or Muradabad, e-waste recycling. All those places were destinations for recycling. And they were very informal, no billing, nothing, it's all cash driven. But that change started. So other side, we have only formal recyclers buying this material. Their challenge was, because the supply chain is controlled by very informal guys, so even for 1,000 metric ton per month, I used to have 800 suppliers. And I never used to get a consistent supply. I never used to get a quality supply because of those shortcuts. The other side, the recyclers, when we went to them initially, a lot of them really discarded us. A lot of people even told me, I personally met a couple of them guys. They said, "Abhay, kyun पैसा खत्म कर रहे हो, चैरिटी करो, इससे अच्छा है, कचरे में इंटरनेट कहाँ से आएगा?" All those were their feedbacks. But 90% of these recyclers are Lalajis, right? Lala driven. These are like very few. Now Tatas have entered, now Reliance has entered, now everybody is coming there. But those were the days 5 years, 6 years back. This is more Lala driven recycling. Although there need 100, 200 crore investment they have done, they were doing the business. The 2 things, policies we made initially, Richard, was that will not do any commercial business with government. That was the first policy we made, because most of the 90%, 98% of companies in waste management were working with government only, and 90% of their revenue comes from government tipping fees model. So we decided that we will not do that first. The second thing we decided that none of our employees will touch waste. That was the second decision we made from the start. So the day we start doing it, we're killing somebody's business, somebody's earnings. And that was something we wanted to build an ecosystem. We wanted to get everybody on board and remove those 3-4 middlemen, which were out of that 1.5% or just 0.01%. Right? Might be 10,000 or 20,000 in India. So remove those 3 people and bring that maximum value to the people who are doing the real hard work. So I think that the trust started getting built, because it takes time there. And this is the industry where 10 people see benefits, they will bring 1,000 to us. And that's where the scale started happening. That 2 years learnings, then we changed the model multiple times. Similarly, when the EPR came in and the brands became a part of the ecosystem, suddenly 15,000 brands, this became a compliance rate. So they just mandated for them to collect X percentage of the plastic waste they are generating back and get it recycled, although they don't have to buy it. And for them, sitting in a Bombay posh office, they never knew where the waste is going before, right? And suddenly it became a requirement to collect 60% of the waste generated by them. How do you do that? You can't. These guys are so informal. Even their vendor registration will not happen in any of these Fortune 500 companies, right? 90% of the people will fail in creating their vendor because their GSTs are not there, their certificates are not there. So they were looking for, and luckily we by then had a good reach there. That was our entry in the corporate business, basically. Where so today we work with 500 plus brands. It started that time, and from Unilever, Pepsi, Coke, we work with most of the people for their this requirement, and we created this platform where all these municipal agencies, all these Kabadiwallas who are collecting became the suppliers, and the companies were encashing those transactions for their EPR. But that was the entry point for us. And pandemic came in. Pandemic actually was a game changer. And after that, people really became serious. ESG came in, and I think ESG really became a serious matter. So I think that people started voluntarily looking at it. How do I do circularity? How do I do better? How can do I better? Not just because of the tick mark of compliance. And that is where we started working with a lot of these producers, brands, to really bring circularity into their material, track the material flow, and everything. So that's our second business of sustainability, where we work with 500 plus brands, mostly Indian and multinational. Most of the brands work with us there. And the third piece, which we are now building, and which is going to be a much larger piece for us, is a deposit return system. And that we have launched in Kedarnath 2 years back, and we saw the initial success. And now we are in talks with a couple of state governments, where at a state level, we are hoping that the next financial year will implement it in one state at least. And that is going to be a large behavioral change instrument, which I was talking initially, that consumer behavior has to change, particularly in plastic. And we know that if there's a deposit of 2 rupee or 5 rupee or 10 rupee on the packaging, people will stop littering, and the material will come back into the ecosystem in a right. And that complete system with the collection, reverse logistics, technology is completely will be enabled by us in one state to start. And then India has 36 countries inside one country. So it's a large opportunity. So these are the three different business verticals which we as a business work on.
Maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about, people talk about marketplaces and how people who work with these marketplaces are often exploited, quote unquote. I mean, that's what they say. Here, there is a reverse thing, in which case that these people are already exploited. People who are working as collecting the garbage, segregating them. If they continue to work with a platform like yours, and I'm just saying yours could be just one of many platforms, right? So can their lives really improve? Can they become better off from wherever they are actually?
So I think India needs not just one recycle. India needs 10 more recycles. One recycle will not be able to solve the India's problem. India will, and there will be more people, more companies like us will come into the system. So to answer your question, definitely the value is seen already at that level. Our intent is to go below in the supply chain, provide the value proposition to others. Even we fund them for infrastructure if we don't have, right? We provide them baling machines, sorting machines. We're trying to really bring them into an informal to formal ecosystem by putting those investments even on the capex side of it if required, right? And that makes them more aligned with us. And at the same time, we are a platform company. So we don't believe in buying and selling that 30%. I will buy at 10 rupees and sell at 30 rupees. That's not our DNA. We wanted to earn only that 6 or 8% or 9%, whatever we deserve to get for building that aggregation. Rest value should go there. Even in that case, EPR, 75% value goes to that. So because of that thought process and DNA, I think we're able to create that differentiation and extra value. Today, we did 750 crore last year. Might have added 10 crores or 15 crore rupees value into 20 crores value. I didn't never calculate it yet to that scale, to the extra income of these people at the bottom of the pyramid.
So I just wanted to know that you mentioned that your turnover was around 750 crores. What is a model, like financial model that makes you profitable? Because waste is a business where the margins are very less. So how does Recycle become a profitable business?
So we have three business verticals. The sustainability business is definitely where we are providing technology solutions. We're providing them the supply chain disruption to the brands. There the margins are decently 20% range, 20-25% range. Depends on the service. If it is a SaaS solution technology used, then the gross margins are even 60-70% also. That's number one. Second, marketplace, definitely we have margins of 5%, 4 to 5%, depends on the category right now. It was 2% year back. And we see that more disruption in the supply chain we do, it can go to a double digit in next 1.5 years. Today, but might be 9 in coming years. On the sustainability platform, we make around 20%. And the DRS model is very innovative, where we're doing all the infrastructure investment, capex, all the machines, manpower. But at the long term, we have long-term contract with the government at the state level, where the material ownership remains with us. So somewhere down the line, third year, we'll have a sufficient material coming into the ecosystem, which can create much larger margin for us. But initial capex and opex is required. So these are all long-term things. But we make money on every transaction for sure, because that's how we are not a burning train. We always are conscious about our investments. We do invest, we do take risk. Like last year, we had a loss of 24 crores because we invested heavily on DRS. We built reverse vending machines. We had a team on building it. We have built a lot of digital platforms. A lot of risk we took, but I think this year we should close to become positive. Mostly we'll become positive in this financial year.
So you have some of the big funders. You raise money from funders like Morgan Stanley. So could you tell what was the USP? Or because startup season, there was a long winter and the startups were not getting fundings. So what made Recycle attract a big funding?
So I think 2, 3 things. A strong team. I will definitely give a good credit to it. So the team was definitely a strength. The scale which we achieved without doing any business with government in this space was something unheard of. We have been growing 3.5 to 4x every year for the last 3 years. Even pandemic. And pandemic was a learning for us that waste is a recession and pandemic-free business. This business is a recession-free business. Even if you sit at home, you are going to consume. We're going to generate waste. And we saw it in pandemic, right? Our business has grown multifold, even in those 2 years. Third thing, more informal, more. So we have shown the signals that this can also become formal. Might be very small right now, 0.25%, might be 0.5%, but give the signal to the investors that it can be, even if we formalize 8%, it is a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And if we could, and we are able to demonstrate it in last 3 years or 4 years. So the signals that formalization is possible. So the team, the formalization and opportunity, these are the three important aspects which got. And fourth one is like, suddenly sustainability has become a talk of the town, right? We never thought. And today, Morgan Stanley is a great investor. Morgan Stanley was looking at this space for last 8 years. They looked at many companies and they were tracking us for a couple of years. We spoke in 2018, 19, and the investment happened in 2021, 22, right? So we chose Morgan Stanley because we were looking for people who will not ask me the question, what is waste management? We were looking for people who understand this space well. I don't want to answer because just because this is a very good space, looking very attractive, people come in and then every morning I will get a call that, okay, what is EPR, what is happening, where it is happening. We wanted people who understand this space. And that was one of the reasons we went ahead with Morgan Stanley. And that is a great partnership shaping up for last 1.5 years. They have been our partners. And I must say that was the best decision I have taken to partner. Then before that, we had Circulate Capital, which was a specialized fund. And particularly, I was very impressed with the founder of Circulate Capital, Rob Kaplan. And he comes with a space. They come with this focus on circularity and kind of value they have added in last 3 years into Recykal was just amazing. And so this time it was very clear that we wanted right kind of investor. I had the first investor was Mr. Ajay Parekh of Pidilite. And that's a very clean, and Pidilite has been a great brand. And that was an inbound. Then we had Murugappa family, Mr. Vellen, who is the chairman of Murugappa, is an investor. So I was very clear this time that I also I was very specific about the team. I also wanted to create an investor group, which is very, very strong, very clean, very focused, very long-term thinkers. So I think one of the reasons of that. And winter, I think again, it depends on the business. We always were very clear about we are ready to invest, we are ready to go aggressive, but at the same time, we were conservative. We wanted to make sure that we don't reach that catch-22 situation. Just to increase the GMV, we're very conscious about last year about seeing the scale. And today, I think every private equity has raised $1 billion to invest in net zero companies, and they have a lot of money available, but there are very less horses available which have reached the scale. So definitely, we're in a very sweet spot. Hopefully, we'll monetize it better in the coming years to come.
Great, Abhay. I think this is an excellent conversation, and I'll sort of summarize it in just 3 lines, all which you said. Number 1, kachre mein internet kahan se aayega? Second, you have to be, quote unquote, a fool to lose money in this business. And last this is a recession-proof business. But it's amazing, not just the company, but the way this entire system works. We never think about it. We just throw the stuff into the dustbin and we forget about it. And there's a world, in fact, not a world, a universe that exists after it. And thank you for taking us deep inside that. And I'm sure this is just first of the many other conversations that will follow over the due course of time.